Hey, it's Friday. Here we are. Let's form check. Hey guys, welcome back to another Form Check Friday. I'm Paul. Clint's asleep. You know the deal. Thank you guys for submitting your form check videos this week. Looks like we got a good group, a small group, surprisingly, but we've got a good group. And I'm excited to get into it. Before we dive into the form checks, I just want to let you know about a podcast I was on. So the guys over at Hero's Journey Physiocast, I believe it's called, were nice enough to have me on. It's up on YouTube, came out this week. It's about an hour and 15 minutes. It was a lot of fun. Evening podcast, so we got to drink whiskey, or I got to drink whiskey. But you can watch it now if you're interested. And you guys probably know a lot of the stuff if you watch this show regularly that I said, but it was a good one. And so if you want to check that out, you can find it on YouTube or you can find it on the video section of my website at HORNSTRENGTH.com. All right, that's all the news I have. I will mention one more thing. We are not going to do an episode next week. I'm traveling back to Los Angeles to help out with my fiance and her mom. As you guys know, or some of you know, she's dealing with a brain tumor. So I'm not much help up here in Idaho. So we're going to travel back together. I'll be on the road next week. So we're skipping next Friday, but I will figure out a way to get it done the Friday after that. So stay tuned for that. All right, let's dive into the form checks. As you guys know, and for those of you joining for the first time, I have not seen any of these. So we're going to do it all together. And I think everybody this week is a repeat follow-up, people we've been working with. So excited to see the progress. All right, El Wapo 30. Let's see what we got. Still working on trying to improve my hip drive on my squat. Not sure if it's looking any better. I'm also dancing my feet during the setup. Okay, thank you for all your coaching. It makes a big difference for my lifts, Corey. All right, Corey. Corey, I believe, managed to hit 405 on the squat and still in the amidst his novice progression, which is unusual but awesome. So, all right, let's take a look and see about the hip drive and the dancing feet. So let me kill the volume here. And we'll watch a couple reps and then I will give my feedback. All right, 350 for 5. Bar placement's good. Oh, you're just, well, you know, you're shuffling your feet a little bit, but you look stable now. Okay, pretty smooth. So it's a lot. Well, we'll talk about it in a second. Let me just watch the set here. Having a little issue with depth, and I can tell you why in a second. Let's just see if you fake. Nope. Okay. I mean, you're real. In fact, if I was there, and could actually get a better look, you might be hitting depth. It's kind of hard to tell with camera angles sometimes. All right, so here's the issue. Well, let's cover the dancing feet thing. So very normal. You want to just get into a rhythm that you practice on any time you take the bar out of the rack. So your practice should not be, you should treat your lighter sets, your warm-up sets, make them as perfect as possible. Okay. You don't want to practice wrong because you're going to embed that motor pattern. You want to treat, even if it's 45 pounds, treat it like it's 400 pounds. And that way you'll get into the same routine, the same systematic approach to unracking the bar, walking it out. You want that to be automatic. So the correct way to do this is get yourself under the bar while it's still in the hooks. Get tight, get set. Your stance should be exactly the same stance that you're gonna squat with. When you go, like, think of unracking the bar as like a mini squat. So you get under it, you get everything set, and then you just do a little quarter squat or even less than that to unrack the bar. You stand up and then it's 1 foot back, next foot back, And that will get you kind of close, right? Because you're not going to, you're probably not going to step exactly in line, but you'll be real close. And then like a little bit of an adjustment. So it's 1, 2, and then adjust. And that's it every time. 1 step, 2 steps, adjust. Okay. And the more you practice that, the more consistent it will be and the less of like a little tap dance out of the rack. So just practice that deliberately every time you unrack the bar. As an aside, most of the time when people get hurt, or a lot of the time when people get hurt, particularly in the squat, it happens on a light warm-up or a weight that's lighter than their heavy set. And it's because they're not taking it seriously. They're like, oh, I just got to get through these light warm-ups. This is not a big deal. I'm not nervous. I don't have to be like, I know I'm going to be able to do this. It's my warm-up. And they don't take it that seriously. They're a little loose and then they pop their back. Happens all the time. So treat every rep of your warm-ups like it's 400 or 500 pounds on that bar. Okay. So 1 step, 2 steps, adjust, and then get ready to squat. Okay, so the issue with your squat here is that you're delaying the knees forward part, right? So when you're standing straight up and down, here's your hip, here's your knee, right? We want this, okay? We want both to go out at the same time, meaning you lean over, your hips go back, and your knees go forward to counterbalance the hips going back. You have a delay. So and I'll show you when we watch this again, you are sitting back first and then putting your knees forward. And that delay is changing the bar path. It's instead of just perfect balance and then straight up and down, your weight is going back and then forward. All right, so just pay attention here. I'm gonna slow this down so you can see it. And I want you to watch your hips. And I'll try and speed up a little bit here since it's slow, to where you're actually gonna squat. And I'll see if I can zoom in a little bit. Yeah, so pay attention to if you can keep your eyes on your hips and your knees. And you'll see it goes 1, 2. So back, and then the knees start coming forward. And then you hit the bottom. So you're still ending up, but it's all back. And then there's a lack of hip drive. But it's going to be easier for you to drive your hips up hard if the weight on your foot is balanced at the bottom. If you're back on your heels on the way down and then sliding forward to counterbalance that while you're moving, you're going to have a hard time focusing on the hips. Better hip drive there. So just watch the butt again. You're going to break back and then forward. Okay, and you can see there's even a little bit of forward knee travel there. If we watch your knees on that last rep, you can see there's a little bit of knee slide at the bottom. And that's just because of the order, the delay, because of the delay in the knee travel, it's not straight up and down. So it's an easy fix. Just think knees first. Okay, so when you start the rep, you're gonna lean over and just worry about your knees because you're so used to sitting back that the hips are gonna go back automatically when you lean over. You need to focus on getting the knees out at the same time. And you can even do a little drill to practice where even just like watching TV in the living room without a bar, you stand up and you just practice leaning over and shoving the knees forward at the same time and stopping. So you're only gonna squat like less than halfway down. But you just want to get in this habit of like the lean and the knees happen at like same time. It's not, lean and then knees. It's together. Okay. But I don't think this is going to be a hard problem to fix for you. You just need to be aware of it. See how they're still moving forward after the halfway point? That's let's go back. Yeah, this has been a pretty common problem on Form Check Friday. So as you go down to the bottom, because you didn't get the knees set forward enough, soon enough by the halfway point, they have to continue traveling to the place that they're gonna end up at the bottom where you're balanced, right? Because if you're not gonna fall at the bottom, the knees have to be a certain distance relative to your toes. It's different for everybody, but it's usually right over the toe, maybe a little in front. And if you don't put it there by the halfway point, it will slide there or you're gonna fall. You wanna put it there early and then just leave it there, and then you can focus the second half on sitting back. So the first half is lean over and knees forward and out, the first half of the descent. And the second half is hips back and down. Knees forward and out, hips back and down, right? If you're thinking hips back and down the whole time, the knees are that order is gonna be flipped, and the knees are gonna go forward and out at the bottom. And then the momentum is gonna pull you forward, and then you're gonna bounce forward. Or at the very least, in your case, because of that forward momentum, you have to stop it by lifting your chest, which means you're not hip driving. Okay, so that's the other part of this, which is once you solve the knees forward problem, we need some hip drive here. So I want you to end up balanced at the bottom, and then from there, a hard, aggressive drive up with the hips. Okay, so from this point right here, you're thinking about pushing this straight up, right? Here's your hip, boom. Like so much that your back angle changes. Like it's not gonna change much, don't dump the bar over your head. But your back, you're gonna, if you do it right, your back angle will drop more horizontal 2 or 3 degrees as you initiate that aggressive hip drive. And then you're gonna lock it back in and hold it all the way back up. But in your case, I'm seeing hips and shoulders. It's almost like that when you're actually going forward. It's almost like your back angle's too perfect. Right here, right? I should see the hips go first, followed by the shoulders. And your hips and shoulders just move in perfect unison, which means you're not driving your hips up hard enough, okay? And this is good news, because when you start doing that, you're gonna get way more power out of this, right? Because you're using 5% of the potential hip drive that you have. And when you really start like digging into it and getting aggressive with it, you're gonna, those reps are gonna fly, okay? So what I tell my clients who have this issue with very subtle hip drive is overdo it. Okay, and maybe I told you this last week, but do too much. Do too much hip drive. Do so much hip drive that you think I'm gonna tell you to back off, man. That's way too much hip drive. Because what feels like too much to you right now is probably gonna be correct. So all you gotta do is lean over and get the knees over the toes, out forward and all the way out right away by the halfway point. So lean over, knees forward and out. You can think toes. Weight goes a little bit to the toes for the first half of the descent. And then after that, it's all about sitting back. It's all about stretching back with the hips back and down. Okay, but get those knees set early. So if you see that past the halfway point, your knees are still moving forward, so like past here, if you watch your knee right here, if it still travels, see how it's traveling forward a little bit? And this is a good example because we've got right? So we're like, maybe right there's the halfway point. We can see a little bit of your knee right here, okay? But if we keep pressing play, now I see a lot more, right? Now we've got this whole thing right here. And that just means you didn't set it far enough forward. So knees further forward faster. It's a way to think about it. And then the second half is hips back and down. Now you're reaching back into the bottom. You're gonna get more of a stretch. You're gonna hit depth a lot easier, because if you're sliding forward at the bottom, it's really hard to sit back enough to have your hip crease break parallel. With the sitting back and stretching, you're gonna get more of a stretch reflex, which is gonna cue you to drive the hips up, and you'll be more balanced, so you're gonna be able to do hip drive more aggressively, okay? That's all you gotta do, man, and you'll be good. So overdo it on the hip drive, get the knees set early, and let's post it up again and take another look. You're real close. We're fine tuning now. So very nice work. And let's keep going. Thanks for this submission. Okay, Neil, Dr. K. I'm working on squat hip drive. You asked me to reduce the weight so that we can find my new top set weight. I originally posted 185 and 205 from my Monday workout, but my Friday workout was better, so I posted 210 and 225. 210 looks solid to me, 225 is inconsistent. I'd like to get your feedback on what needs improvement as well as next steps. Okay, so let's take a look at 225. Let's see the heavy one, the inconsistent one, and then we'll go back. That's not bad, man. It's better than we've seen. Oh, okay. Pretty good. Yeah, these are way better than before. You're just bouncing a little bit forward. Do I have you at the normal speed here? Yeah, I guess so. Okay, while we're here, let's look at 210. And I'll see which one I want to pick apart. Oh, that was interesting. You see how you got a little bit of back extension at the bottom there? Watch your back here. See how it gets nice? It gets right there. See that? That's beautiful, man. This thing right here, this arch in your back, that's what I want the whole time. If we compare that, like this thoracic extension here, to the way down, like if we go back, let's see. See it's round there. It's round. It's softer. There's more flexion. This kind of deal, you can see it's got a little bit of a curve to it the wrong way. And then you get down and and then it kicks in. Then you get that nice arch. So whatever you're thinking about to make that happen, oh, there it is. And then you kind of lose it. And there it is again. So we know you could do it, right? We know you can get that arch. You're just hitting it on the way up. It's beautiful the whole way up. So, okay. So maybe this is a difference in like what you're thinking about to make those muscles contract. So you notice that's you trying to set it, that little twitch where you just kind of like watch your upper back here. That. But that didn't really, and then you lose it and then you let it go. But that is a different, it's almost like, how are you getting that? You're just kind of, I think we had another guy who was just kind of shrugging. It's like you're getting it kind of like here, like you're trying to get it lower. And this is the part that we want arched, higher up on the back. And you're trying to do it maybe like mid-back. This is interesting. All right, let's see the rest of it. And then you lose it. And then you just round, see? But then, there it is, right there. I mean, let's watch this in slow motion. Oh, that's fast motion. All right. Let's see if I can zoom in here and we'll watch your back. Okay, let's watch your back. Soft, soft, soft. Good, right there. Look at that. And then all the way up. All the way up, you got it. Interesting, man. It's kind of, you got a lot of weird little ticks that I don't see all that often. Yeah. And then knees are great. And so you're finally getting the extension I want at the bottom of the rep. And obviously the better call is to get it at the top of the rep and hold it the whole time. You don't want to be trying to set your back under load ever. You want to be set and locked in. All right, so let's watch the heavier one, which has some inconsistencies. Yeah, you get it right there too. You're going a little forward on these. See, it's like a twitch. You're not even really holding it. You just kind of lift your chest and then it's like 1, 2, like you're like, huh, and you just relax it immediately. And then you definitely relax it when you start the rep. Yeah. Yeah. And then look at the difference in, I mean, that's the back angle that you want. That's your sort of default, like the correct back angle for you on the way up. Hips are going a little bit back and up. I mean, actually not that much there. It's crazy because you can hold it perfectly all the way up when you sort of have to. But you have a hard time, but you don't even really set it. This is very similar to a deadlift where people like kind of set their back, but like not all the way. And then they try and pick the bar up off the ground and it rounds. You got to set it as hard as you possibly can. All right. So I'm going to give you something that's beautiful. Like that's perfect. You might be a little bit, see how your hips kind of, see your hips are shooting back and up and you're dumping the bar up on your neck and the elbows raise up. So that's one we got to work on. All right, but I think I have a mental model for you to think about. So all of this, like it always has been, is stemming from how you start, right? Even on the ones where you manage to actually set that level of thoracic extension and hold it. So, okay, so the first thing you got to do is arch harder, right? Elbows down, chest up. Think about cranking the elbows down as a way of jacking the chest up. So elbows down, chest up, okay? And then hold it. Like, first of all, do it harder than you want to, like exaggerate it, because you're kind of just, like, really get it up there, okay? And pin those elbows down as a lever for jack, because what happens is you lift them up and then you round. So go the opposite way. Push the elbows down and forward to jack the chest up, and then like lock it. Lock the elbows down, lock the chest up, okay? Don't just like, because that doesn't do anything. So that's part one, is you're gonna pin the elbows down and jack the chest up. Okay, now this is the part that's wrong in terms of how I coach most people to squat. Like I always say, sometimes you got to tell people to do the opposite to eventually get the form to look the way you want it to look. So you got to think about it differently. Like last week we had a guy who I told him, don't even think about hip drive, just drive, just try and stand straight up, no hip drive. Now that's wrong, but he had so much focus on the hip drive that we had to rein it in a little bit by trying to do the opposite, by trying to do none. And hopefully we're going to see after this form check whether or not it worked. So in your case, I think that you have too much focus on the leaning over part. And that's why as soon as you start to lean over, you're dumping the bar up on your neck. So I want you to try and maintain a vertical back angle, right? Imagine you're doing like almost a front squat or at least a high bar squat where like in your head, the low bar is going to have a back angle that's kind of like this. If I move the bar up into the high bar position, your back angle is going to become more vertical. So I want you to think about trying to high bar your low bar, which is usually a mistake. But in your case, I think it might counteract the error that I'm seeing. So unrack the bar, push the elbows down and arch the back up or the chest up and keep those elbows pinned down. And then try and just focus mostly on knees and not really leaning over at all. Okay, just try and like stay upright and just drop your butt straight down, right? Almost like you're doing a front squat. Like if you've ever done front squats, you have to maintain a very vertical back angle and just almost, there's not a lot of reaching back, because if you reach back, you're gonna drop the bar off your shoulders. So I want you to try and stay more vertical and just think about dropping your butt straight down and straight back up. Okay, not back and up, not sitting back, just straight down. And the whole time, you're never breaking the focus on keeping the elbows down and the chest up. So you're gonna set that position harder than you want, and you're gonna maintain you're not really gonna worry about leaning over. The low bar placement will force you to lean over to some degree, but I don't want you to add any extra effort to that. Just let it, keep it balanced. And try and squat with a more vertical back angle. Don't worry about hip drive. Just worry about maintaining the elbows down, chest up position, and then just dropping straight down and straight up, okay? And let's see what that looks like. Because these are like the ascent, see, you're doing great on the way up, aside from shifting back a little bit, but the back looks way better on the way up. So it's, and you're able to fix it with some weight on your back. So let's try that next time. Okay. And, I'm not doing a form check Friday next week, but if you want to post, if you do it this week and, practice light-ish, medium, see how it feels. And if you want to throw up a video, just post a thread and make a note that this was something that we talked about and you're trying it. And you can do the same thing, ascending sets, and find the ones that look good. Give me the one you think is like the limit and then the one before it. And let's just see what that looks like. Let's see if overcorrecting fixes it, okay? So that's your homework, man. And have a feeling that might work, okay? So you're gonna squat wrong intentionally and it might be right, okay? So let's give it a shot. All right, man. Other than that, like, you're looking pretty good. We're getting there, and we're a lot closer than we were when you first came back after the break, and I don't know what that was. So good job sticking with it. Let's try this next week, and then we'll go from there. All right, man. Thanks for the post. Let's keep going. Oh, this is it. We have 3 this week. Okay. That's going to be a short one. Good. Drew. Okay. This is what we were talking about. Back again for a check on my squat. Last week you advised focusing on driving the bar straight up instead of hip drive. Yep. 260 first video, and then a back off at 235. I'm also interested in what you advised for programming. I've been at the novice phase for a long time, but hampered by these problems. I'm going with the third part of your novice program right now. Okay. Well, let's take a look at the heavy set, and then if we need to go to the lighter set, we can. So the assignment here, for if you're watching and weren't with us last week, was we had too much of Drew pushing his hips back, too much focus on hip drive. Hips were going back and up. Back angle was becoming too horizontal. The bar was rolling up on the neck. Back was going into flexion, lifting the chest. So to overcorrect for that, I told him to stop trying to do hip drive and just try and squat straight up and down. Just stand up. Okay. And we're going to see if that made it any better. Let's see. Okay. Your depth's a little off here. They look pretty good, man. I mean, yeah. So you still got the knee cave. You're still going too fast, man. And again, fast is loose. Fast is sloppy. Fast is inefficient. you're just like dropping too quickly. And in order to drop that quickly, you have to be looser than I want. This is a stretch into the bottom. You've got rubber bands in your groin and you're stretching them as you sit back into the bottom and shove your knees out. So it should slow down as you reach maximum tightness, right? The harder I pull back on a bungee cord, the harder it is to pull it even further, the slower it gets because there's more resistance. If you're just like dropping and coming back up, that means you're not stretching, okay? And it means there's a lot, that speed and that looseness introduces a lot of variable movement, right? You don't know which way you're gonna bounce. You're gonna bounce, you don't know what you're gonna bounce off of. And then it's so fast that it's like you're gonna bounce forward, you're gonna bounce back to the side, who knows? So I want you to slow these down. I want a more deliberate cadence. You can go fast on the way up, but the descent should be very slow and controlled. Again, if you watch an elite powerlifter trying to squat, 800, 900 pounds, the descent is like incredibly slow. Because if they get that thing out of the slot at all, they're going to dump it over their head with that much weight. So slow and controlled on the way down, fast and explosive on the way up. And you can go fast and explosive because you were slow and controlled on the way down. So you ended up in the right place with your balance in the right place. And you can drive up perfectly straight up and keep everything balanced and in alignment because you're starting that explosive drive from a balanced position. If you are dropping quickly and then you hit the bottom and you're not exactly where you need to be, and then you explode from there, you're going to go forward usually, or your hips are going to shoot back like they're doing. So just like, give me a little bit slower cadence. Okay. Be more deliberate about the descent. Like that is the maximum speed I want you to go down. Okay. I don't want you to go any faster than that. In fact, I'd like you to go a little slower. So little hesitation on leaning over. You can see, again, you're breaking the knees and you're still pretty vertical. And then at the halfway point, you actually start leaning over more. And now you're going forward, right? Because you didn't finish setting the back angle by the halfway point. So you need to be here, this leaned up, you need this back angle, but you need it here, okay? So it's just a few degrees, but you should be here. So again, we talked about this, you're all about knees, right? Knees, right? Or I think before it was hips back and then knees. Yeah, that was your error. Now you're doing all knees, but so this is the thing, right? So if you were sitting back too much, which I think was your issue before, now you're focused on knees first. Great, that's what I want. But everybody forgets that it's not just knees forward. You still have to lean over all the way. So you establish the back angle and the knee position by the halfway point. Because if you just put the knees forward and then do what you do, they're gonna go back. But if you do them together, then you're just locked in and then you can focus on sitting back into the bottom. So because of that, you continue leaning over and then as you drive up, you drive forward. Very common pattern. See that? You got to be more leaned over than that by now. There. That's the back angle you want. Okay, so you need that by the halfway point of the descent or all of this is just going to be an issue. Okay, now depth-wise, you're close, but again, you need to be, in order to hit proper depth, the last few inches you have to sit back. Those hips, so starting like right here, if you had set your back angle fully, then you can just focus on reaching back with the hips and dropping this crease below this line right here. Right? So you end up kind of looking like that, right? But the problem is you're still too upright. And so you have to finish leaning over to find that balance. And you're gonna finish that as you start driving, and you're gonna bounce forward. Okay. If you had leaned over all the way by this point, then you can just shift back to your heels a little bit and then drive straight up. Okay, so that's why you're missing depth, because you're still trying to establish your back angle. So when you start the rep, it's nipples to the floor, knees forward and out. So it's all the way leaned up. You just dive for the floor. You stamp your nipples on the rubber and you push your knees forward and out. That's the first thing that happens, and they happen simultaneously. They happen together. If it can't be knees and then lean, and it can't be lean and then knees, because they'll change, right? It's both of those things, boom, together. I think we've talked about this. So you're not leaning over enough right away. The knees, if the knee thing, you're doing a much better job of getting the knees forward and out, but you still have to finish leaning over, okay? And then once you've set that, then the second half is hips back and down. So you can start reaching back to the bottom, drop your butt, find that rebound, right? Like when you're doing the pause bounce squat or the bounce pause squat, that the rebound is back. It's back here. It's not in the knees, okay? And then so you're missing depth by a little bit, and then the knee, you got the knee cave, which is like your deal. And again, a lot of this has to do with the speed, right? You're trying to go down so quickly that you're not engaging the external rotators to the degree that you should. So when you try and drive up, they just cave in because it's like if you don't fully set your back in the deadlift and then you pick the weight up off the ground, because you didn't lock it all the way, it's going to go into flexion. If you lock it all the way, it can pretty much stay locked. With those external rotators, if you push them all the way out on the way down and hold them there, right, it's still more of a battle than the low back, because the lumbar spinal erectors are, primarily isometric, that they hold. That's what they do. So, but the external rotators, it's the same concept. Get them all the way out and then keep them there, right? If you kind of put them out, they're going to cave in right away, especially if you're not paying attention to it. And then you get the hip circle, right? The dreaded hip circle. All right. So lean over faster right away. Slow the whole thing down. Be deliberate. Try and do like a tempo squat. 1,000, 2, 1,000. I mean, let me see if I can find let me see if I can slow this down. Like, what's this, 80%? Let's see how these look. 80% looks pretty good. Yeah. So like 20% slower. Let's look at 70. Because we have the technology. I mean, that 20 to 30% slower, okay? Make it look like that. All right, let me look at your back off and see if the lighter weight made it easier for you to hold this. Better synchronization on that rep, between the leaning. Yeah. Okay. Better depth on that one too. Okay, so it's less of a, you've got, let me see this last one. Yeah. Okay, so same deal here. More leaned over than you want to be, earlier than you want to be, with the knee. And again, I say this all the time, but break the descent into two halves. Knees forward and out, hips back and down. First half, knees forward and out. Second half, hips back and down. Knees forward and out and lean over. That has to go with it. So set the back angle, set the knees for the first half, hips back and down for the second half. Think toes, heels. And I know I'm repeating myself here, but this is important. As you lean forward and put the knees forward, think your weight will go, you can think about your weight going forward a little bit to the toes. Lean forward, knees forward and out, weight forward, first half. Then once that's set, back ears leaned over as you're ever gonna be, knees are as far forward and out as they're ever gonna be. By the halfway mark, hips back and down is heels. Weight comes back to the heels. So toes, heels, okay? Weight on the toes and then sit back a little bit onto the heels, pull it back, and that'll allow you to make sure that you hit depth. You're never gonna hit depth if your weight is going to the toes at the bottom, okay? Because it's gonna pull you forward. So knees forward and out, hips back and down, toes, heels, toes, sit back on the heels, right? That last knees here, that last little bit is like this. That's how you're here. And this is, you get depth, you leave the knee here, you got the back angle here, like that. But notice the knee doesn't move, right? If the knee moves, you go this way, which feels like you're getting lower, right? Because the bar is actually lowering, but your hip crease doesn't lower because it's just pulling, you're just closing the knee angle more. The hip crease doesn't drop below the knee, okay? So toes, heels, all right? And slow the damn thing down. Do it slower than you think you should, okay? Humor me here. And I think that's gonna buy you more time to notice these little changes in form and sort of pay attention to where you are in the rep. This kinesthetic awareness of what your body is doing at various points. If you're going too fast, you don't have time to process that and make adjustments. That's the key thing. You can adjust it, right? That's the cool thing about the slow lifts, the squat, bench, press, deadlift. Like you can't do that with a power clean because it's just over, right? It's so explosive. But you can make micro adjustments while you're squatting and deadlifting. And it's important that you learn how to do that. And it's important that you go slow enough to allow that to happen, okay? So work on that. And again, like we're taking a week off. So if you want to post a video in a thread, I can check it while I'm, in between episodes. All right, man. But like, we're getting there. We're getting there. I'm not giving up if you don't give up. So let's keep going and we're going to get this thing dialed in. All right. Good. Nice work, guys. Short one this week, under an hour, killer. Thank you all for posting. I hope it was useful. And like I said, we are going to take next week off. I'm traveling, but we will be back a week from next Friday. I'll figure out a way. I'll find a studio or build one or something like that. And I'll figure out a way to get this. In the meantime, I'll be checking the Reddit, the subreddit regularly. So post your questions, throw some videos up there if you need a form check in the meantime. And thank you guys for participating, watching, subscribing, sharing, liking, whatever you're supposed to do on the internet. And I will see you guys very soon. Have a great weekend and have a great week next week. And I will see you like a week after that. All right, take care.